All right.
Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our live discussion of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6. Well, first half of Season 6. And I have special guest with me tonight, Rob Stone from Smirking Gun Reviews. We have been trying to do a mutual kind of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. discussion for a while, and this ended up being the perfect time. So welcome, Rob.
Hey everybody, welcome to my channel, or at least on my side of it. This is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews. I'm so happy to finally be talking with Dee about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a show that we both really love, and finally able to make the time to come together and talk about all things Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm just really freaking excited to be doing this.
Excellent, excellent. So what we're going to do tonight is, like I said, we're going to try and keep this sort of short, about an hour, no more than an hour, if possible. I have my timer going, so we'll see if I can keep close to that. But we basically want to talk about the season so far, talk about our favorite episode, favorite moments, and sort of what we want to see going forward. I know there's a lot of expectations coming in. I mean, we're all very excited just to have a season 6. But there's a lot of stuff that I think many of us want to see by season's end, and just sort of curious where everybody's at. So we're going to have our little chat. We're going to talk our discussion forward, and then I've got some questions that were submitted on my channel for tonight's broadcast. We'll try and dive into some of that. And anybody who is in the chat, go ahead and submit your questions. Also, we'll try and include and refer to things as the night goes. And then try and hit as many of those questions as we can. So Rob, why don't we have you kick things off? What has been your feeling of the season so far? Oh, and hello, Frank Cardinal in the chat. But yes, Rob, what has been your thoughts of this season so far?
It has been very streamlined and straightforward to me. Like, I loved it with this shortened season. There's a more real stakes feeling. Everything is going at a really brisk pace. We're not sitting there with filler episodes. Like, I think we had maybe one that you could consider filler, but other than that, it is a straightforward season that has brought everything back to the way I wanted it to be. It's like how I wanted season 5 to be. It reminds me of like all the other past seasons that I really loved. And I was worried that with the way that this story was headed without real Coulson being around, I'm happy to say that it's still as fantastic as ever.
Yeah, I completely have to agree. I think the season's really done amazing. And again, always questioning of where their show is going to go from one season to the next. And they have really tightened down their storytelling. I think I have said this multiple times, and I think there's a large general agreement that season 4 is often regarded as the best season of this show, because I think it was there where they really cinched that philosophy down of really tight storytelling, only focusing on telling the story they need to tell and not trying to fill in all of this extra space. You know, over 22 episodes, you know, your 3-pod arc worked perfectly. Last season, I think that it worked well, but maybe a few filler episodes with your kind of 2 halves of story. Now with 13 episodes and kind of 2 adventures going on, I think they've really kept that storytelling really tight. And then also, let's say hello to Sion. Okay, by the way, I'm going to say hi to some people in the chat. If I butcher your name, I am so sorry. I'm going to do my best. Sion, Seonebts. I'm just going to struggle trying to say that. But welcome to the chat, Epic Zombie Killer. Always awesome to see you. Anyway, yeah, Rob, you were saying.
No, absolutely what you're saying about, you know, what we're both saying about it being more streamlined and everything, and that they don't have to worry about too many storylines going at the same time. We've pretty much got our normal cast of characters still dealing with their problems, and we don't have like 3 or 4 other storylines going on top of that we just don't need, that just kind of bogs the story down. It's nothing but been a chase to find Fitz. It's been a chase to find Sarge, and then everything just has the tones and the beats and the pace of everything has just been perfect. The only, I have a few character problems, but other than that, I've been really, really happy with it. And anybody that watches my channel knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I think part of that, of course, is dealing with Sarge, who is the reappearance of not quite Phil Coulson. Well, I mean, genetically Phil Coulson, but a lot of questions coming in from his character. And I think we as an audience, as fans, really wondering, how are you going to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Without Phil? Phil is the backbone. He is the formation. He's the foundation of this entire show. And yet, I gotta say, Sarge has been really intriguing to watch, because to me, he's very much like Phil. If Phil was raised in a post-apocalyptic hell world, there's still that kind of wry sense of humor. He still inspires loyalty in the people around him. He is still, well, like you said the other week, encountered gods, much like our Phil, and seen them kind of up close and who they are, but with a very dark twist to all of them. So I think bringing in this character, bringing in Sarge, and kind of having him be I wouldn't say the big bad, because there's definitely a bigger bad that's coming up. But having him as kind of that focal point where everybody can play with their emotions and the feel of how they're dealing with Phil not being there, I think was really an interesting choice.
Yeah, I've described him, his version of Coulson, as Cable, as like a Nathan Summers type character who has come from, who's a time traveler, who's a reality, different world traveler, who's always got a team of people with him that are doing like a dirty job that nobody else wants to do. A lot of times on the sly. A lot of times you have to take him on faith that he knows what he's is doing is right, even if it looks like he's doing bad things. I mean, I tried calling that early on, where it's like, it's still Coulson, even if it's not our Coulson. It's just, we've seen Coulson do some pretty crazy stunts that make you go, how did you think of that? And you're a good guy. So, it's just, now it's just full on, like he never met Nick Fury. You know what I mean? Like he's still going to be that guy that, maybe he doesn't like Captain America in his world or wherever he came from. Maybe he likes, Baron von Strucker. I don't know. But, it's just the way that Clark then gets to play that as completely, I'm not going to call him Han Solo, but just the guy who doesn't have to deal with the red tape and the bureaucracy anymore, and probably had one too many bad things happen in his past. And I hope that we deal maybe with a flashback or some sort of way to say what happened to this Coulson. But at the same time, I kind of like the ambiguity of not really knowing what caused Coulson to go this way. And has he ever even called himself Coulson? Like, what's his actual name?
No, that's a good question, because he remarked that Coulson sounds familiar. So he seems to imply, also when he's talking about, I've been to a lot of different worlds, but none where people know who I am or have seen my face. He seems to know that that's who he is, but maybe that's something that's so long ago. But I think that's something that one of those things that we want to see moving forward is, we definitely want to get what is the full story with Sarge, and is he our Phil from an alternate timeline or parallel universe? Is he a clone Phil? As many people have asked, is he a Skrull? And I know Skrulls can change a lot of things. I'm not sure from a genetic standpoint. I don't know where they're diving into as how much a Skrull can, actually copy another person. Is it down to a genetic level or not? But yeah, I think these are a lot of big questions that we want to see kind of answered and dived into.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, and just a quick note for everybody. we do have a little bit of delay between Rob and I. So if we do a little stumble over things, just forgive us. We're trying to work this all out perfect. It's a work in progress. We want to start doing a bit more of these live stream discussions, getting more live questions, really diving deep into a lot of these ideas. So we're trying to work some things out. The technology is still a little new to both of us. So please be patient as we get into this. All right, well, let's move on to what's been our favorite episode. Rob, which episode here has been your favorite so far? We're not going to talk, we'll talk about moments in a minute, but let's talk about overall, which of the, what are we at 7 now, of the 7 episodes has been your favorite, and why did that resonate with you so much?
Well, I have a feeling we're going to say the same one. Maybe not, but because it was the one that we both just had fun with from the beginning. I didn't have as much stuff. I have a Las Vegas thing that Hunter S. Thompson wore over there, and I forgot to put it on during the dang review. But it's got to be Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kitson, because that was like a dream come true episode of just, let's just go crazy with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those have, I think the Kitson one is has some of my favorite moments from the season so far. But I was kind of split between episode 3 Kitson and episode 5, because in 5 we got so much info. I mean, we got several things. One, we got multiple May kick-ass fight scenes, which is always fun to watch. And I was sort of curious how Ming-Na would be reacting, because in season 5, her leg was pretty much tied up because she had actually, I think, torn an ACL, torn something in her knee. So she was really injured and couldn't actually fight. So I was wondering, with this time and coming back, would she be up to speed? And yes, she is. And that had some excellent fights, not only May versus the zombie Shrike to prove herself with Sarge, but then also we had May taking out Snow and May taking out Sarge in the cab right there. So some amazing fight sequences. Also with that episode, we got a lot of information. That was the full data dump of the season so far. We find out about the Shrike. We get a little bit more insight into Sarge. And at the same time, we're also having that final connection up in space with Fitz and Simmons finally kind of running into each other. I mean, they don't really connect until sort of the end, but they're all up there in the moment. We find out about Chronia 2, and that it was taken out by apparently the Shrike, and what Atera's whole sort of mission there. So for me, that was just the big data dump that just gave us so much action-wise, story-wise information that honestly my brain is still processing a lot of that stuff that came out that episode.
I guess the reason that I picked Kitson in the end is because I felt like from the beginning that Coulson, Sarge, God, it's so hard to do that all the time, switching back and forth between what we're talking about. But since I pretty much had convinced myself since episode 1 that Sarge is still a good guy, he's trying to save worlds, that the tension throughout, like that even was in 5, just wasn't there for me. So I went with Kitson because they just took a bunch of chances and played with tones. And it's a buddy movie partially with Enoch and Fitz just trying to figure out a casino, to Gemma and Daisy on taking these crazy alien drugs that I never thought they'd be doing this. I never thought we'd be referencing Hunter S. Thompson in an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, especially in this day and age. And just the fact that everything just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and just they're in a chair strapped down with people getting shot with crossbows for a bet that you got wrong, or you're going to be put into slavery. I like that Piper and the other guy, he's overdosed on the ship and is basically a second away from blowing the ship up on accident. I like, even though it's torture, Fitz and Gemma see each other again and then he gets taken away. It's just there's a crazy amount of emotions and a crazy amount of people on drugs. Plus Daisy having the Legend of Drunken Master fight with all those guys. It was just, and the fact that she was snapping people with her her powers. We got to see how much control she has over her powers now. And even though the stakes are high, I hadn't had that much fun on an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode in a while. So I had to give it to the one that just made me just come alive.
I can't argue with that, and neither can the chat. Several people are bringing up Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kitson. Hilarious drug episode, as Frank Cardinal there says. So yeah, we got a lot of responses on that. Kevin Waters, welcome to the chat. Appreciates Inescapable. That's his favorite so far. The way Fitz was caught up in events and using plain old exposition was done right. And yeah, there was so much wonderful stuff. If you guys watch my channel, my scene of the week for that was the moment where Fitz comes in with Gemma and sees Gemma's memory of Fitz's body, and then Coulson coming in all injured, pushing Gemma to go after Fitz. I mean, it was just, to me, I'm starting to tear up even just thinking about it right now. That was all emotion right there. Now and the more you talk about Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kitson, the more I kind of agree with you, because if I get into my favorite moments, all of those are from that episode. The banter between Gemma and Daisy when they're tripping. I mean, they're high-fiving and they're having a place. It's full ladies' night. Then we get that moment where Daisy is wandering through the casino doing the full-on Hunter Thompson third-party exposition, describing the place around her, was awesome. Yep. We get the two of them again tripping out within the carpet under the gambling table, and then kind of breaking down as, I want to find a Fitz too. I mean, those were moments that I think really shine because the actors know each other so well, because they've done these characters for so long, they've worked together for so long, they can really jump off of each other. And in fact, from what I was reading, I believe Elizabeth Henstridge was saying that whole scene where they're doing the high fives and talking about girls' night and everything was a one-take bit. They just went and improvised and played off of each other, and that's what they used. And I think the energy of that it's evident in every scene in that episode. So yeah, like I said, it's hard for me to say favorite episodes, favorite moments, because they kind of start to blend in that whole bit there.
Yeah, because even in episodes that I don't like, I can always find one or two incredible moments that I'll go and make me kind of reconsider my feelings on them. But then when I think about this season as a whole, Kitson just had everything except, I mean, it didn't move the Sarge plot along, but I think when a show in 6 seasons is still able to just take that right turn onto crazy train, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Just take a right turn into ridiculousness and just say, let's just wing it and look and have fun. And I loved, parts of Code Yellow that is clear that I went on that review that I don't like it. I still love when May's bashing people with a phone in that episode, and I love that that's the episode that Mac finally gets to kick butt again. But in episode 5, what you're talking about with the fight scene, or is that 6, where May's kicking butt on the truck. I mean, that whole sequence is fantastic too. When she's fighting them with the door, where they keep changing the camera angles of people falling through all that. I mean, that's another amazing episode. Anytime they do the crystal deaths are incredible. Even though we had to lose, Keller in that, it was amazing. So there's just been so many moments of greatness in this show, but as a whole, if I have to put them all in a basket, they're all pretty much the majority of them coming out of Planet Kitson. Plus the paintings and the soundtrack. I mean, it's
no. Like I said, I've got to completely agree there. And yeah, when you're talking about our crystalline entity and the death of Killer, I think one thing we all can say is Mark Kolpack's work doing the visual effects on this show has been incredible. That guy, I mean, even like I said, even the production as a whole, how they are able to constantly up themselves, expand their stories, do things that we don't expect. Yeah, the Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kitson, never would you think that they're going to do a whole Hunter Thompson riff. And in a way that works and pushes the story and isn't just there for pure entertainment. It's not just a filler, let's have fun episode. It's a great episode where we do have a lot of fun, but it moves the story along. And we get to see a lot more of Davis tripping out and the great interactions between Davis and Piper, who have been, Davis has been with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, since season 1. And slowly over time has become more of a forward figure. Piper in the past couple of years, and seeing the two of them, I mean, these are supporting characters that I relish every scene that they pop up in. And I think that's another thing that they do. It's not just our main players, but a great cast, a great supporting cast that can own scenes that they are in, standing equal with the series regulars.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's nice that we have a couple of red shirts that have been kind of promoted to a higher status, and it gives us a touchstone with a lot of the smaller characters. We need somebody lower than our main characters to respond to, because like there was that scene where everybody's high-fiving each other in like a control room, and I'm like, you don't even know what any of those people do, so it's nice that we have a couple of characters. All these poor people, they're just standing around doing all the real grunt work. They get nothing. So, but we get Davis and Piper, and they're basically like the union reps, I guess, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They're like, have a face for the little guy. And I've been enjoying it a lot.
For sure. And speaking of supporting characters, I think we got to take a moment and talk about Enoch. Who has just been a constant joy. I love his relationship with Fitz. I love that Fitz has a buddy, one that's alien and yet fits so well with him. Fits so well. I really didn't mean to do that. And also is incredibly funny. He has the best just deadpan delivery of comic lines. I mean, even this past episode, I have taken bold action. Or what was it when he was suggested about he was going to be sold off to the brothels? I'm not sure how I feel about this. I mean, again, not a complicated line, but it's delivered so, there's such emotion in that, and such confusion and such just bewilderment at times. How he could fit into the emotion he could fit in these lines, I think, has just been awesome. What do you what's your favorite bits with Enoch there? Where does Enoch resonate with you there, Rob?
I love that Enoch. I don't want him to go anywhere. I want him to stay on the show forever. Because even though you could say that he's kind of a gimmick character, kind of a Spock type character or whatnot, he brings this, like, he's a very well put together creature. What do they call them? I can't remember. The name of his race. Yeah, he's a very complicated, literally brained person. He can think about all that stuff that we can't, but that he's kind of like a child in a way, that he doesn't really understand people. So like on Kitson, when he bets, he loses because he doesn't know how to lie. And it's something that he learns through Fitz. And so he's kind of becoming a person throughout the more that he's on the show. And now that he's become this kind of fully realized person, I'm like, don't you take him anywhere, because the guy's delivery of lines, like you said, is fantastic. They take this kind of character that could be annoying, and he becomes just like one of the highlights of the season. That when I thought for a second that he was bad, when he kept Fitz and Simmons together to help out his people, I was so mad that they had written him as possibly bad. that it was so great. I was so relieved when he just, at the end of the next episode, he's back to being like, oh, I'm not doing this to my friends. Like, I'm with you guys. And it's just like, you're damn right.
I said, cannot agree more. Lily back here in chat says, Enoch is our Data and Spock. And yeah, he is. He is the logical one that's trying to become human, that's trying to understand these human emotions. And yeah, I have to agree. Once he said his goodbyes, I'm like, no, he can't be gone for too long. He's Fitz's buddy. He's got to come back. He's part of the group now. He's with everyone. He's gonna fit in right perfect with Davis and Piper there in the back, I think. But yeah, completely agree. Oh yeah, Frank. Yeah, same thing. I agree. Enoch, why is he gone? It's so sad.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to move on to what we want to see moving forward. Are there any other particular characters you want to bring up, or I know there's a lot of relationships in this show. I'm not sure if anybody, if you care to really dive into any of that territory.
There is a character that we haven't talked about that was just introduced, and that's the one that's bringing everybody from space back home. The one who I thought was actually from the framework, but it's not. It's I think she played. I think she might have been on Alias. She has the red wig, and she's got to bring everybody back home. And Sarge keeps talking about how the leader of the whatever this is going on is on its way there. And she just happens to be coming there to Earth with everybody in tow. And it makes me wonder, like, exactly who is this lady? Because I know if I looked her up on IMDb, I know I'd find a whole bunch of stuff on her. But I think she's up to no good. I think once she gets to Earth, that's when things are really going to hit the fan. I think that we're supposed to just think that she's just somebody that's bringing them there for what she's like looking for an artifact or something. So I don't know. I feel like that's going to intersect with Sarge's character in some way, whether he knows her from something else or whatnot. I think that there's going to be a bigger thing going on with her.
Well, I think you just provided our perfect transition into our looking forward and what we want to see. And there are a lot of people that are thinking the same way that you are. First off, for connection-wise, Frank had the best one. What if the kitchen chick, which is Giselle there, is Sarge's ex-wife? Wouldn't that make for some great scenes? That would be kind of funny. However, Don Willie did ask the question. Hi, Don. We're going to have you on for one of our upcoming shows for sure. Don Willie over at Dawn of Ice and Fire, as well as Tazan 215 and Captain Cretus, all have jumped on the same idea. Is the red hair girl what's the person that Sarge is warning about? Is she the maker of the Shrike? And I think there's a lot of good arguments in on that. As we saw from the previews for the upcoming episodes, she is interested in the monoliths. We do know the Shrike are made from the same compounds as the monolith, or at least the crystals that they create when they die are the same compounds of the monolith. So yeah, I think that's actually a really good question. Would be interesting too, because she'd be arriving on the planet not because the Shrike have summoned her, but coming in from sort of a different way, maybe looking for something that she feels. Well, and that's going to be another thought. Why would she be looking for the monolith? Is she trying to stop the Shrike? Is she one of her own things? Or if she is the creators of the Shrike, is she doing this as a way to either increase her power or prevent people from stopping her, knowing that the monoliths themselves would be the most powerful tool to use against her? What are your ideas there, Rob?
Well, I hope that it's not something petty. Like, I hope it's not like I just did this because you broke up with me. I hope it's not something like that where like Sarge would just be like, to the moon, Alice, you know, but I hope it's not as simple as that. I don't think they will, but I mean, my brain goes there. Like, look, I didn't want to have all these crazy birds attack everybody, but you should have, like, told me that you were sleeping with my sister or something like that. I do think that any of those other options are viable, especially like being an ex, and maybe she's trying to help him despite himself. I don't know. But there is like a scene in the trailer for season 2 where May's fighting a female looking character, kind of like build, with a couple of really nifty swords. So I would bet dollars to donuts that that's the girl that May is fighting. But they did some really crafty editing, so you couldn't quite tell who he was fighting. But also the monoliths. It's starting to sound like, possibly, if I'm reading it right or hearing it right, that maybe Fitz and Simmons created the monoliths. I don't know if that's the same impression you were getting, that maybe they created them in the future, knowing what they would need in the past eventually. And that somehow, whenever they've needed it, it's been from some other place that we can't explain yet. So I don't know what's up with the monoliths in the end, but I would say that it's probably got something to do with our own characters creating them in a way.
It's interesting that you say that also, because when that was my theory, I think 2 weeks ago, was that Fitz was going to be used when he was captured by Altera to try and save Chronica 2, to find a way to go back in time, that's when the monoliths were created, that it was by Fitz. Now, of course, since he escaped there and headed back to Earth, I kind of dropped that theory, but I think it's still reasonable. I mean, the monoliths themselves involve time travel, and while we know that the monoliths were used to send Hive off to the alien planet Maveth thousands of years ago, we know that the monoliths can be used to travel through time, so it's very easily that they could have been created now and then sent back in time, dispersed through time in some way, kind of like the Infinity Stones. And honestly, I sort of equate the monoliths as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.'s Infinity Stones. They have been with us since the end of season 2. They have popped up not only to bring up Maveth, bring back Hive, then used to time travel. Then they were all apparently destroyed underneath the lighthouse, which created and opened up that rift. So this has been, they've been a constant presence in with the agents for the past several years. So it seems like it only makes sense that they're going to be diving in and finding more about it, whether it's not that they are finally going to discover where the source was, or like you're suggesting, and I think is a fair theory, that Fitz is in some way responsible for creating them in the first place.
Well, I mean, they're supposed to figure out time travel too, right? So maybe in figuring out time travel, the monoliths were created there. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and they seem to again be split into different things. We have one that traveled through space. There was one traveled through time. They are suggesting that the chemicals that sort of make up the Shrike, or the structures that they're forming, is in a way controlling life and death. It feeds off of life. So they do. It's like each one has a different sort of aspect of reality that they're sort of tied into and can sort of manipulate. So maybe it's one of those where you make one big thing and it splits into multiple pieces, each one controlling one particular aspect of reality. Let's see. Just checking to see if we've got any questions from the chat. Hi, Mickey Lazo, welcome to our chat. Lily also saying hi. Kevin, we said hi to you. Frank, Jen, Belinda, we got some awesome people in the chat today. Thank you all so much for coming up. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, anything you want us to sort of throw out there, please throw it up in the chat and we will try and jump on that as soon as we can. Now, what else is it that you are expecting to, what do we want with the rest of this season? I think for me personally, I want Phil back. I like Sarge, but I miss Phil. Phil's why I started watching this show. Phil, come here, Phil. Phil's my man. Phil's my man right here. We need him back. And I love seeing, I mean, again, I like the aspect of Sarge. I like the sort of different dark side of that. But I think there's been a lot of relationships sort of developed in with this show, maybe more than most. It's in some ways maybe a little too many. But I think that all these relationships have been earned. Fitzsimmons, obviously, kind of the pinnacle here. Since the beginning, since season one, this cursed couple has been trying to get together. And the fact that they're willing to tear holes in the universe for each other is such a strong aspect of their relationship. I understand why they split them up, because it gives a drive and motivation. But at this point, I just want one season with these two together. Just leave them alone. Let them enjoy their breakfast nook, and just wander into the office together, and just have a year. Just have one season of excitement there. We've got Yo-Yo and Mac, who got together last season and have split up sometime between then and now, but Mac's the director, a lot of responsibility. I understand that. Keller was a great momentary bit for Yo-Yo, but obviously I'm kind of hoping that Yo-Yo and Mac sort their things out. They're kind of cute together. But I don't want to not mention May and Phil for all of our huge Felinda shippers. That has been a relationship that's really has been hinted at for a number of years with their connection, and I really appreciated that coming to reality last season, which I was already mad that you killed Phil, but then splitting up and kind of having the fallout from that for May has been painful, but I think in a good way. I've enjoyed the opening where we got to see that May kind of took that experience, those last periods with Phil, and kind of that filled a spot with her. She seemed to be able to move on, to accept certain things in life. And yet the anger and emotion that's conflicting her, seeing Sarge, this person who looks like the love of her life and definitely isn't, I think works great from a drive standpoint for a character. But yeah, ultimately, whatever happens, whatever we find out with Sarge, we definitely need that background. By end of season, I want Coulson back. Infinity War took out half the world's population. The next movie, they were able to bring everybody back. We can bring Phil back too.
Well, did we even really see Phil die? I mean, I'm always on, I you know what I mean? And so no body, he's not dead. They didn't show a funeral. It's maybe things have been tough, but they would have made time for a funeral. But I feel like the easiest answer to getting Phil back is that Sarge is Phil, and that something happened that we don't know, because they say he's over 100 years old, right? So maybe he is a clone. But I've been trying to rack my brain to figure out how to do it, unless he actually is Phil. There's something, a block in his brain. Like you said, he says things sound familiar, but I mean, there's a million ways that they can write this. They could say that he had somebody manipulate his brain, like Charles Xavier, kind of blipping things out or blocking things mentally from him to knowing things. But I'm trying to, like, the snap, like, if he wasn't killed by the snap, though, he wouldn't have come back from the snap. But I mean, all it takes is a few lines, like I said, a few lines of dialogue that, oh, hey, so-and-so, it's not really him. We switch bodies out, like, or something like that. I don't know. But I agree. You can't keep going with Sarge as the Coulson that we know. We have to get Phil back. But for the life of me, like I said, the ideas that I'm coming up with are like fan fiction theories, practically, where we're just hoping that that's how it works out. But I'm just going to kind of let them surprise me, because honestly, if we never get Phil back, which I'm trying to prepare myself for just in case we don't get Phil back and we're stuck with Sarge, or I don't know, that they're going to give us a valid reason for it. And since we know, right, that there's a season 7, I don't think that they would make us go without some version of Phil with us. We've got like 6 episodes left to try to figure out where we're going. A lot of it's going to be dealing with the Shrike and probably this lady and all that. So I'm hoping that like by the second to the last episode, we're going to see a clear picture of maybe where it's going to head. And sometimes shows have the penultimate episode be the finale of the story that you're doing, and then the last episode could actually be set up for season 7. That could be something to think about as well.
That's an excellent point. And I think you made a really good statement in there too about I'm going to trust what they're going to do. And I think ultimately that is something that this show has earned because I want to see certain things. There are several questions, but ultimately I trust this show with whatever. Even when we had Phil die and we had Sarge going in, I had come into the season saying, do whatever story you want because this show has earned our trust that they're going to deliver in one form or another. They're going to give us a great story. They're going to give us some amazing storytelling, and they're going to get us to a point that ultimately I think we're going to be all excited about. They ended last season killing Phil off, but they thought it was going to be the end of the show, and I could understand them making certain choices with that. But you also brought up a couple of other things. We have not seen Phil die. Melinda said that she was there until the very end. But you're right. We haven't seen anything. So there is still some sense of deception or action or thing that we could go. We had, who asked in here? Mickey Laza asked that we saw Phil die in Melinda's point of view. I think he fell asleep when she reached over and put the hand up onto his lap. I think that hand moved. And from what I've gotten from some of the Twitter feeds from Clark Gregg and such, they were implying that that's not when Phil died, that he had just fallen asleep. And that's just a sign of Melinda's, soft caring for Phil in that bit. Kevin asks in the chat how did he get his hand back if Sarge is Phil? Also a good question. Maybe it's a new and improved hand. When we looked through when they were doing the bank robbery or the jewelry shop robbery, and Melinda had put up the heat sensor, if you look, we don't actually see a heat signature from that hand. Now, when Deke stabs it, it does bleed and react like a hand would. But in the last episode, I don't even think there was an injury on Phil's hand. There wasn't even like a stab wound or tightened up. So I think they've been playing very coy with the information that they've been giving us. And the show is really good at misdirecting. They give hints, but they will on the surface misdirect where they're planning to go. So I think there are a lot of options that are open. And I think they've done a good job of keeping those options open as much as possible. But yeah, so I think we're all pretty understanding. The rest of the season is going to be dealing with rest of the Shrike bit. You're right; they could save the last episode for planning into what's into season 7, and that will certainly be a part of it. They always link things up very nicely with what's coming forward. But yeah, still 6 episodes, a lot of chance of surprises. Let's see. The other thing that I'm kind of hoping for is, I want Enoch back. I think he's got to go try and find a way to save his planet, and that will bring him back to Fitz, and maybe that's where it leads up with the monoliths all right there. So I think that Enoch's disappearance is only going to be short term. I think in another episode or 2, he's going to be back looking for Fitz and knowing that this will be the way to try and save his people potentially. Let's see. Anything else expectation-wise for the rest of this season outside of relationships, Phil, and aliens and the monoliths? That is a lot to cover over the next few episodes.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I think Enoch's definitely coming back sooner rather than later, and it's going to be important. It's important and or really like a surprise, kind of like Han Solo flying in at the last second to help Luke out. Like I have a feeling that Enoch's gonna bring something to the table. before the end of this is over, whether it's maybe a self-sacrifice kind of thing, or that he has something figured out that will deal with the monoliths and the stopping of the Shrike as well. As far as like what I think is going to happen, I mean, as far as like the future holds, there was that rumor that we're hope that I don't think that they would go back to the well on that. But if they can do, because I think what Geek was messing with the gaming applications of the framework, I could see that coming back, because I mean with the framework you can pretty much do anything you want, as long as they don't do it the same exact way as they already did. But I think if season 7, let's say season 7 is the last season, I think we need to go full circle. And I think we need to reestablish S.H.I.E.L.D. as an actual presence in the Marvel universe, not just the MCU, but, you know, as back to form. Because I don't want to say too much about Spider-Man Far From Home, but Nick Fury might be busy, and they might need Phil Coulson to be the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. again, at least on the ground. And so I that's what I'm hoping for, is I really would like to see them go all the way back full circle, getting S.H.I.E.L.D. restarted again. We dealt with it just a little bit when they got Benson, the doctor, in here, but they're still trying to build the school back up. They're still trying to get everything back. So I think it would be a kind of a cool swan song to have like all these old things mixed with new things, and then have one last threat that I don't even know what they would do, but like in that situation, I'd probably say don't use the framework. But I think that's where we need to go next, is back to basics. Even though back to basics for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is usually still pretty nuts.
You know, that seems right. And you know, there was actually a bit of notice, speaking of season 7, there was a bit of notice put out yesterday or today on Twitter, ABC announcing their mid-season shows, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is listed as one of their mid-season shows. Now, the mid-season is usually our winter break, so that would seem to imply a possible January or February return of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Caveat, though, there are shows that have been listed as mid-season shows that start in May, which is what, of course, Agents did this year. So we don't have a definitive date, but to me personally, when you say mid-season, I'm thinking winter. And if they do that, that would open them up for possibly either moving over to Hulu or into Disney Plus, which may be a way to actually reintegrate the show back into the MCU proper, which I think would be a brilliant way to do it. So yeah, like if you're saying, if next season is rebuilding everything up from the beginning and reestablishing stuff, I think that would be a perfect transition to use. The other possibility that I was thinking of is, while we may deal with the Shrike this season, the monoliths may actually wait until next season. That may be the big setup that we go into, where we find some information, and then kind of like when we did LMD, when we did season 4, and we did all those settings, you know, in Ghost Rider, we established Ada, and then she really came up as the bad in LMD, and then moved up into Agents of Hydra, which then at the end brought back Ghost Rider, which was, to me, again, a perfect circle. But I think we may do that here also, is we're reintroducing the monoliths. We'll deal with this threat, and then that threat becomes the big bad next season. I think is also a possibility, and that would give them really time to deal. They could do time travel again. They could do space travel. They could go completely bonkers if they're dealing with monolith type stuff. So I think that's, again, there's a couple of possibilities. I like what you're saying about coming back to the beginning and rebuilding S.H.I.E.L.D. I think would be a perfect way to do it. And maybe they'll end up doing both of these ideas. I know they watch our reviews, Rob, so just letting you guys know what we want to see in the Agents coming up. Okay, so let's see. I want to get to a couple of fan questions. We actually answered many of them as we were going through right here, which, of course, is always nice and convenient.
That means that
now,
everybody's
if
on the same page.
yeah, exactly. So let me just pop up here. I did print out my questions, but of course, one of them didn't print out all the way. So let me just get to this. Okay, let's see. Neil Schnepf asked, let's see, is there a Kree-Inhumans connection since the Kree at least created the first monolith? Yes, of course. The Kree created the Inhumans as warriors to fight in their never-ending battle against the Skrull. But of course, they became a little bit too powerful, and that's why they used the monolith to transport Hive to Maveth and get him out. However, we don't know if the Kree invented the monolith. We know they used it way back then in order to get rid of Hive. But yeah, we don't know if. So yes, the Kree created the Inhumans, but we don't know if they created the monolith. Could Quake's powers be another way to destroy or control the Strike? Vibration could destroy crystals, but her powers were able to control the monolith. Also very true. Yeah, I mean, she can definitely quake things apart, I think, for sure. But she was able to resonate with the monolith to activate it. I don't know if she could actually have controlled it. But like you had mentioned, Rob, she has really honed her powers down. She's able to break a finger from the far side of the room, which was so awesome to see. I love that. Let's see. And is 100 years significant? The team traveled 100 years into the future. And Sarge mentioned going back 100 years and a sergeant years in the future. That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. Rob, any thoughts on the 100-year note here?
Well, see, isn't this the beauty of these things? Is that everybody can have like little bits and nuggets of information that passed us by because we're so busy thinking of everything else. That's why we need the community to like have a bigger voice in this, to remind us of like things that we didn't even catch, because I didn't catch that. I don't remember that. But if it's true, then I mean, it even points even closer to like that maybe it really is still Phil and that something's just been done to him.
Well, perfect, because that leads us into Neil's last question here. Is Sarge perhaps another part of the Ghost Rider's bargain? Ghost Rider did leave to fight a war. It was probably to fight Infinity War, but could it be the Shrike? You know, I have seen that actually pop up amongst the Twitter group that I am with. God, I got to say, you Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, you're the best fans in the world. So much togetherness, so much support for each other. There's always a few fringe dirtbags out there. But overall, I think the fandom has been very supportive. And I have seen a few ideas that perhaps Sarge is another writer himself, is the result of Coulson being taken over by the writer. And that actually would be a really good possibility. Ghost Rider's abilities are to instantly heal the people that he has bonded with. So the fact that Coulson was injured always resonated poorly with me. I never liked that idea that having the writer burned out, the Kree magic blood in him. It made no sense from a comic standpoint. So the fact that maybe the writer is still part of Coulson and maybe wiped his memory to go and do this big battle with the Shrike and deal with, and at the end, the writer leaves him and we have Coulson back. I think that that's actually a distinct possibility. What do you think of Phil Rider, Ghost Coulson? We got to find a good name for him if this is the case.
Again, I had forgotten about the whole Ghost Rider thing because and the whole deal, and maybe the deal's not over. We don't know like all the details of it. There's so many different things about the Ghost Rider mythology and how many writers there are at one time and what each writer has to do and blah, 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 depending on who's writing the books and what story they're trying to tell. This is definitely another major possibility. And again, like you said, misdirection. I haven't thought about this. They haven't brought it up. They've been really coy about all the details. So honestly, it's like I'm waking up and going and remembering all this stuff that I should have been paying attention to months ago.
Well, again, they have such a deep field in order to pull off of, and that's something I think that the show's done really well, is they do constantly surprise us. They have a plan and they work through it, and they'll misdirect us. They'll give us small little hints. I mean, yeah, we haven't seen Coulson do anything Ghost Rider-y, but he also hasn't needed to. And maybe, again, it's not that he has, the rider within him, but he's being coursed and used. It's a different demon. It's a different thing. There could be some other aspect that we're not going. But I got to tell you, I am loving this idea. And if this is the way that it goes, there's going to be some serious fist pumping in my house when that episode airs, because I will be all about something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because it'll just come out of nowhere. Oh, like, yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean that he has to be the Ghost Rider. Maybe he doesn't even know that he's got the powers. It could be that whatever's causing all this doesn't let him even operate like he should be. I don't know. But again, that's the best idea right now that I've heard, and I think that that's the thing I'd like to see the most. But again, it's all going to come down to I trust them. You're right. They have earned our trust. After this many years, they should be able to they just got to bring it in for a landing, man. Just bring it in nice and straight. And I'll love it no matter what it is.
Yeah, for sure. The only other thing that I had theory-wise at the beginning of the season revolves around Snow. Snow was originally listed as Butterfly, which, for your Marvel Comics fans, is, of course, a Marvel Comics mutant who has the ability to resurrect people from the dead. They come back with no soul. Unfortunately, they're all kind of like dark versions of themselves, a little psychotic. But, with TV, they can always, these new realities, new variations of characters. It could have brought back with a different memory, could have changed his memory. I thought that was a possibility. But we constantly just call the character Snow now, and she just seems to be sort of a crazy killer, and they've given no indication of having any other powers than that. So I think that was, like I say, a nice misdirect for where we might have think that Coulson came from, and then they've got something else, again, totally planned. God, I really am liking this Ghost Rider idea. And if we get Gabriel Luna back, even for a scene that would be awesome. Okay, so we are hitting about the hour mark. I think we have covered everything that we wanted to, which sort of amazes me. My last one went, I think, like 2 hours. So this is great that we could stay on time on this. Rob, any last thoughts or ideas that you want to share about this season, characters, questions, anything Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. related at all?
I just, like you said, I've been wanting this. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have been on the run too many seasons. After Captain America, the Winter Soldier, it's just been them on the run from everyone. And I want to see them get back to the status that they deserve, that they're to be acknowledged as the heroes that they are when the universe needs it. And so that's really all I'm hoping for in the end, is that we end where we began. Maybe with a few new faces, hopefully with some good old ones. Maybe, even May being the head of S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't know. But that's where I'm hoping to get for is these characters back to like the weirdness of being comfortable again. Like how if they got everything back, it would be probably weird for them to actually be back to the way things were, and the awkwardness of trust. And can you trust S.H.I.E.L.D.? What happened last time? Is it going to happen again? That kind of thing. So that's about it. That's all I really have left is just saying that I just wanted to go back to the beginning eventually here. But other than that, I just trust what they're going to do. So, but this was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
Excellent. Oh, and last little comment here. Kevin in the chat brought up Sarge did make a flaming head reference to May when he had her in his truck. Good memory. Again, this is why I love you guys so much, with all of your comments and the chats and everything else. Like Rob said, there are so many things we're trying to catch and latch on to, and so many things that we want to discuss in reviews and be sure not to miss. There's always things that we either forget, don't get to, or in our focus on one thing have totally missed. And you guys, all of you constantly are able to bring up all of these moments, all of these ideas, many things that I've personally missed or didn't get a chance to get into or discuss. And I love that so much. It's sharing this show with all of you is why I like to do this. This is why I do reviews. This is why I like watching Rob's reviews and everyone else's and engaging in the chat. It's sharing this show is what it's all about. And I just love the chance that we get a chance to do this. Oh, hell, sorry. Last Deadpool's hit list. Maybe a guest visit from Bobby and Hunter. I think we can all agree that would be awesome.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Again, everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us live. Everyone watching this in the archives, thank you for taking time and watching our live stream. We want to definitely try and do some more of these coming up. So, just look forward to more exciting things going on. All right, Rob, where can people find you? And do you have any other shout outs that you want to throw out there?
Just that you can find me on Twitter at Yesh8. That's YESSHH8. My channel is Smirking Gun Reviews. We cover Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a whole plethora of television and movies and comics and games. Pretty much anything under the sun that I get the feeling and the itch to talk about or do. That's where you can find me. I'm not really anywhere else because I don't have the time. But that's it. And if you're not a subscriber to D's Reviews already, shame on you. Do it now. For anybody that watches this in the future, okay? Maybe I can stop saying it on my reviews and just make this one the last one I do, my last testimonial.
No, Rob, keep telling everyone to subscribe to me. That's what I love about you. Well, thank you so much. Always appreciate your stuff. And yeah, if you guys haven't subscribed to Rob, definitely go over and do this. Rob covers so many more things that in my busy life I am able to get to. So I always appreciate the amount of stuff that he's able to cover. He did a great month last month. Why is it leaving my name? Who are you covering last month, Rob?
Sam Rockwell.
Sam
and
Rockwell.
Now we're doing Edward Norton.
Exactly. There you go. You had Sam Rockwell's movies last month. You got Edward Norton movies this month. He does a lot of great stuff. Please go and subscribe over on his channel, Smirking Guns. And of course, I'm D. You're watching my channel right now, D's Reviews. Thank you all. I got a brand new logo. Very excited about that. And of course, I am covering Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We are in the midst of the final season of Legion as well. We have Preacher coming up next month in August for its final season. So lots of fun stuff. I do a lot of comic book things, occasional movie reviews, but those are sometimes tough to get into. Did see Spider-Man. That was awesome. You guys should definitely check that out. Some amazing Mysterio stuff. You really don't want to miss that. Yep.
Oh, that's it.
Okay. Sorry, a little pregnant pause there, folks. But again, thank you so much for everyone watching us in the chat, for everybody watching this in the archive. Please be sure to subscribe if you are not. And that's it for us. So I'm D, and I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.